So welcome, Dental Nachos. I have my amazing friends here hanging with me, staying sane and profitable. Which one's more important? I pick sanity. I think I pick sanity over profitability, but I'm going to ask my awesome friends. We're so proud at Dental Nachos to be collaborating as a sponsor with the Dental Success Network. My brother and I are proud members of the Dental Success Network and DSI. What they're doing for dentists and dental teams is just fantastic. But I'm letting my panelists here just introduce themselves to the audience, kind of orient our audience as to what you do in this world here. I'll let Ashley start us off.
So yeah, I'm Ashley Hirschfeld, Chief Operations Officer at Dental Success Network. And yeah, we're stoked to be joining you today to chat with you a little bit more about what we're doing.
Awesome. You're the ones who are the brains that are putting together this awesome opportunity. My team is sharing it in the chat. Joining the Dental Success Network will come with a free operations manual. Is that, am I correct there, Ashley? Free operations manual to help you in your daily dental life. Awesome, Ashley. Michael, how about you?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Mike Lomotan. I'm one of the co-founders of DSN. I'm also a client in DSI. And I'm married to a dentist, which is how I got dragged into the whole dental world. So my wife is Dr. Katrina Agatip. We have 2 practices here in San Diego. And my responsibility in DSN is I negotiate with the vendors to bring forth what we feel is the best possible deals for all of our members to be able to lower the overhead and increase their profitability. So again, tied into sanity, right? So it's good to be sane, but sometimes you go insane because you're not profitable. So there's a little fine line there.
It's a balancing act. I always say, like, running a dental practice is like running a circus where the animals don't try to eat you, just slowly annoy you to death. So, why does the elephant get off on July 4th? The giraffe is using too much lidocaine, right? So, and then to make him feel at home, I brought one of his friends here with him, but my good friend, Dr. Mark Costas, I know you've been on many times, but orient yourself to our nacho audience.
What was that? Is that like a 15?
It's only a 20-pound weight, so I have a 35-pound back there. But
oh, there you go. Okay.
Sprain a lat. I don't want to sprain a lat just right off the bat here. So
don't pull a hammy, man. Don't pull a hammy. Mark Costas, how are you, Paul? Great to be here with your awesome crew and your awesome audience. I am one of the co-founders of Dental Success Network, Dental Success Institute, multiple practice owner, podcaster, a lot of the things that you do, which is why we have so much fun when we get on and start chatting together. A lot of similar backstory. A lot of
for sure. Actually, one of the things I thought about, Mark, because people talk about these generations is, and we've talked about a lot, is like we are this like in between generation of not growing up with social media, but also going to a lot of face-to-face events. I just spoke at a 50-person event at Normandy Farms. It was like speaking at a Hallmark movie, and I loved it. Right, I actually loved that experience of being with people face to face. And even though I built what I believe is really an awesome community on Facebook, I just think what you guys do and also bringing dentists together face to face is so important. So I applaud that.
I appreciate that. It's interesting. Speaking of Hallmark movies, there's 2 times when I'm forced to watch Hallmark movies. That is anytime my mom is with me. It's either Fox News or Hallmark movies. And like literally she's like, please just sit and have a cup of coffee with me while I watch this Hallmark movie. And then my kids kind of wander in and they're like, what are you watching, Dad? It's like, these are the excellent Hallmark movies. And then, I go to this barber shop and you think that like a barber shop, all dudes, there's 2 female barbers there and they insist on watching Hallmark movies or Golden Girls. So
I am a Golden Girls fan. I watched it with my grandmother growing up. I am a big fan of that one.
A little nostalgia there. So I'm very familiar with a genre of Hallmark movies. The little movie sets look the same and everybody's always very good looking. And there's three male actors and 3 female actors that they just recycle through.
Yeah, they recycle. I'm waiting for the Princess Switch 5. Vanessa Hudgens, she's really doing amazing work with that. I don't know if you've seen that one, but she is really phenomenal. She plays both roles. My daughters like it. It's a classic one. So in keeping with this holiday theme for a minute, and also what DSN does, people ask about what's your why. I want to ask that second. For people watching, I want to ask, what is DSN? So you guys each can answer. I have my thing. So what is DSN? What is the Dental Success Network? If someone just tuned in right now and said, I watched this guy, Dr. Nacho, on these lives, always talking to people, what is the Dental Success Network?
Do you guys want me to take it?
Take it, Mark.
Go for it.
Okay, so the problem with DSN is that there's so much awesomeness to it. It's hard to deliver like that elevator pitch where they say it has to be 15 seconds or less. So it's hard. It's a 3-legged stool. The 3-legged stool of We have the largest buying group in all of dentistry. There's about 1,200 active members inside DSN. So with those 1,200 members, there's about $1.5 billion in collective revenue if you added up all the revenue. So when vendors see those types of numbers, 1,200 active users, the majority of which are practice owners and high performing practices, they want to do everything they can to get in front of that audience. So when they approach us, we have a lot of leverage as far as negotiating their fees. And that could be a software company, it could be supplies, it could be equipment, it could be services, anything that's related to practice ownership, we get the very best prices. So that's one of the benefits of DSN. Number two benefit is we have hundreds of hours of continuing education in our continuing education library. So if you think of like a Spear or a company like that hosts a ton of continuing education, both practice management and clinical, we have hundreds of hours. And then the third leg of the three-legged stool has a lot to do with what you do every single day, Paul, and that's making sure that dentists don't feel alone, isolated on an island. We have 20 plus chat rooms inside DSN, and it is a one strike and you're out policy. No trolls, no negativity, no bullying allowed inside DSN. Just a place for people to post cases, to ask questions, honest questions, to support one another. And there's just no time for negativity. So if you can imagine anything from IV sedation to crown and bridge to molar endo to all on X to practice management, all of that stuff is happening simultaneously, hundreds of posts every single day, and supportive kind of environment for people to get real answers for people that want to interact.
I love it. I mean, I would call it, really focused feedback. Yesterday, I was just reading something from Addison in the morning about, a practice owner whose associate is going to do a startup, and that triggered him being out of network with insurances, him or her out of network with insurances. And it was just a really good conversation of kind of stuff people don't think about. You get focused feedback without judgment, right? Focused feedback without judgment. So I found that too. I use the DSN app myself. I like learning, reading. I know a lot of people in there. So I like that three-legged school. So that is what is the DSN. Ashley, I'll ask you, just because I like to orient people for pricing. So sometimes my wife's like, we're going to buy new furniture, we're going to get a lamp, we're going to get this, and find like, how much is this going to cost? Like, I'll get to that after the throw rug. I'm like, get to it before the throw rug so I can stick with you. So, I mean, I think there's so many things we purchase as dentists and human beings that we're lucky to live in 2022. This pricing is too good, whether it's from ride sharing, whether it's from dental office supplies. What does the DSN cost for someone to be in monthly?
Yep, our DSN cost is $199 a month. And our goal is always to, with those discounts that and those deals that Mike negotiates and Mark was just mentioning, our goal is to have you be saving so much with those that it's paying for your DSN membership.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much pricing. Any one of those buttons. I mean, that's just such for the things, to invest $2,400 a year. And I know you guys can talk more about this, and you guys are the expert on it, me, but I know just the supply savings can pay for that in a short time, while also giving you access to a community of people that are there for a specific reason. I want to ask you, Michael, something interesting. You said something, about being married to a dentist. And this is actually an authentic idea I've had for the past 4 years. I want to do a whole series on I'm married to a dentist, somebody please help me. And it's just for dental spouses, right? Just for dental spouses. I think this will be phenomenal. I think it's good enough for like the regular people to watch it on, because being married to a dentist comes with so much specific context, specific stress. And, if somebody's watching, and Dental Nachos is a group for everybody from dentists, students, practice owners, spouses of dentists, how does this help you as a spouse of dentist, or how is your wife helped by having this resource?
Right. Okay. So that's a great question, right? So I'll say like we're the unsung heroes in a weird way, right? So one thing unique about DSN in the community that you're in, actually it's all dentists with the exception of folks like myself and Ashley, right? So the people that run the back end, it's only dentists. There's no vendors, there's no outside people, there's no employees. It's strictly dentists that are vetted to be inside of it, right? But how does it help me? So, I look at my role with my wife's businesses is to really kind of make sure the operations are smooth, deal with the taxes, the bookkeeping, the hiring, kind of build that structure around it, build a lot of the automation since I have a tech background. And what it helps me is really to kind of understand what are the other business use cases and problems that other dentists are trying to solve.
Yeah.
And if I can take their experience, their stories, and get ahead of our own problems that we have in our office, then it's a win. And vice versa. Honestly and openly, we've made almost every mistake under the sun over the course of starting and selling several different practices. And so now I like to think that we got it down, but those experiences also shared across the board, for other DS members. So that's the way I look at it, is really kind of facilitating experiences, both successes and mistakes that we've made, to send each other dentists and making sure people repeat the same problem.
I want to share something, Mike. I really like that, but I didn't like one part of that. There's no such thing as mistakes. There's just learning opportunities that make you cry inside. And this is what it feels like to be a dentist crying inside. That's where I was working all day at my office. It's got to keep your sweating on the outside, crying on the inside. And when you can go to a place, and I say this, I make a lot of jokes, but when your dentist spouse is supported by people that they know care. I mean, the conversations happening inside of the Dental Success workplace group, and I love running my almost 45,000 member group. They're different because they come with the understanding that there's more confidentiality. There's less sort of, that's not the way you should do it. And I just really see a lot of vulnerability and authenticity being shared in a way for someone who runs a Facebook group that's really admirable and often surprising. So I think that, our spouses encourage us to do really smart things in life. And sometimes they see things outside of our box. So in the dental nachos world, we got spouses on this group. The dentist is not part of it, but they would love to be part of this. So I want to kind of now go to next some of the stories of DSN or DSN members. So I know our dental people, Mark, we're afraid of everything. We think everyone's out to get us. There's a scam inside of a scam, wrapped inside of a scam, outside of a bite wing. That's how we think about everything, right? But I know some people said, I'm going to join the DSN and I'll see what happens. And I mean, people just the other day, one was Erin Wolfson, who I really love. She's a Job Connect client and just such a character here on the Northeast, the best coast. That's us over here on the Northeast, not where you guys are. It's like morning over there now. We're done with our day. It's happy hour time. See that. But anyway, I see that, for the sanity and profitability piece and the transformation, I saw that on the stage at the Dental Success Summit. What kind of impact is this having on practice owners? All right, Mark, you and I both get DMs daily that are just not good ones. And, stuff's going wrong. I feel alone. I bought 3 practices when I couldn't run one. My associate just quit. I know all of you get this, but Mark, tell us some of the impact or the stories on the DSN members that you've seen over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting, Paul, you and I get the privilege of speaking all over the place, a lot of times to dental schools, a lot of times to kind of beginner crowds, and then some more sophisticated crowds when it comes to practice management, when it comes to clinical stuff, et cetera. And when we surround ourselves with this little bubble that we've surrounded ourselves with, particularly me inside DSN and DSI, we have our black belt coaches and we have the 200. We limit our coaching group to 200 people, and people come in as white belts, people come in as novices, and they eventually become more and more sophisticated, and they evolve as human beings. They evolve as clinicians. They evolve as practice owners. And then you forget that there's an outside world outside of your bubble where people like literally don't know the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet and an income statement. And we forget that stuff wasn't taught in dental school, and it just becomes part of our vernacular and part of our reality. Every single day we're talking about this stuff. So then when that kind of that vocabulary becomes ingrained and that knowledge base becomes ingrained, then most of the people that we're around speak differently, act differently, have a different attitude towards all of it. Not super negative, not dentistry is the worst profession in the world, like some of the state and regional meetings when people just walk around pissed off and have to be there because they need their 12 hours of CE for 3 years.
Use your code, the dental zombies. You can use AMI. I've used that before. The dentist zombies. Where's my CE credits? I like that.
Exactly. So I think that once people get inside DSN, they're surprised by the level of positivity, but also this level of vocabulary and vernacular and knowledge that they're not familiar with. And it doesn't take long before you're surrounded by really positive people and you're just observing in this chat room before you start thinking at a different level. And then these people reach out and they DM people inside the group because you have the ability to do that. And then, they find out who the people in their region are. They end up meeting at other live events. They come to our live events. and they create these friendships, these lasting friendships that we've seen form over 5, 6, 10 years inside DSI. And it changes everything about their career and their experience. And it's hard to say these things without sounding like, it's a little bit of hyperbole, but it actually is true. We've seen people completely transform and say, I was on the edge of bankruptcy, or I was on the edge of divorce, or I was on the edge of about to sell my dental practice. And I surrounded myself with positive people and everything changed. And that's what we see more than anything else inside DSN.
I love that story because it's, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I know what's the difference between positivity and delusion? What's the difference between being realistic and pessimistic? And they're fine lines, right? And I see that inside of the DSN where it's, your speech at the Dental Success Summit talked about the challenges of dental insurance, the influence of DSOs, but still the ability to be successful in a landscape that you got to pay attention to, right? And, I think having those realistic conversations is so important. Ashley, I want to ask you, and maybe we'll pull this out, Nacho team, separate, dentists love details, right? They get to hear me and Mark talk about all the great stuff, and Michael is spouse dentist, but just talk to me a little bit about the details. I'm in Philadelphia. It's my favorite place. Movie Philadelphia. Denzel Washington would say all the time, explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old. So from buying groups to platforms, it is confusing to run all the things inside of your phone. So tell me about, someone's watching and they text DSN to 215-543-6454. First, I want to share, Ashley, that will give them the opportunity to learn how to join. And Mark, you can hold up. They get a free operations manual because my grandmother was right. Everyone is lucky to know me. So for knowing me, you get a free operations manual. For a second, Mark, what's the summary of that operations manual, or what's inside of there?
This isn't 5 or 6 PDFs. This is 316 pages of the best. Our black belt coaches all kind of collaborated to submit some of their favorite things that they have in their own operations manual. Addison and I put it together, and we just put it in a logical order. Examples of associate checklists. We have human resources. We have technology, protocol for scheduling, recall, etc. I mean, anything you could think of operationally to run a dental practice is in this thing. And we've noticed that when people come to us, they're like, I don't know where to start. I'm so overwhelmed. It's so chaotic in my office. We always say, slow down. Let's get our benchmarks. Where are you as far as systemization, leadership, culture, and overhead? Those are the 4 things that we're always tracking. It always comes down to, all right, let's slow down. Let's work on one system at a time. After you get your baseline, we can identify exactly where you need to focus, and you can find all of that stuff inside this book. I love it. And get supported inside DSI.
What's that value? Either Ashley or Mark, it's a $249 value they're getting, or what's the value of that book that they get?
How much is it, Ash?
That book sells on Amazon for about $200 just by itself.
Yeah. So $200 value, so you get that. But now you join, Ashley. Just walk us through some of the details of joining.
Sure. So as soon as you join, you're going to get access to the community, like we were touching base on, as far as that is hosted on Workplace. Within that community, there's individualized rooms that you can join and ask questions for, if it's specifically about endo, if it's about implants, if we're doing oral surgery, practice management. You can start to engage within the community. Then you get onboarded, and our vendors are communicated with as far as who our new members are. So you can start accessing those discounts as quickly as possible. And then you also get instant access to our CE platform, where we have hundreds of hours of continuing education. So you don't have to be a zombie, and you can get many of your CE hours on our platform as well. So those are kind of the 3 main
relevancy. I think also the relevance, and I also commend you, and I'm in the groups where there's some leadership inside of each one of these, communication nations and things like that, where it really seems like the group is being led and paid attention to by people who are experts in what they're doing, which Mark and I say, and this is someone who has a large Facebook group that we're on that I love, but sometimes it's like a wild west of comments and content. Some people go, Paul, I did this thing. I go, that was not a smart thing. I go, where'd you hear it? They said Dental Nachos. I said, well, no one told you just to go on a free Facebook group and do what the next person said. So I believe in the evolution. I'm saying, I always say this, I say all the time, if you're going to run a marathon and you just want to finish it because it's a Philly marathon, ask your friend. But if you want to run a marathon that determines the success of your business, hire people who know what they're doing, right? So, I really appreciate that. Michael, I want to ask you, so I'm a big Seinfeld fan from back in the day. And one time they had one of those little pocket organizers that would calculate tips. And Seinfeld was saying it does so many other things. It does other things. And all his parents wanted to do was calculate 12% of a restaurant check, he said. Right. So the supply part of this, the deal part of it, even in a group of winners and leaders and people that I know from dental school, there's still do we have a deal on this thing? Do we have a deal on that thing? Who's this person? Just talk the group through, that portion of it, what that looks like, how people find out about it.
So we have a general goal, right? So obviously in the time of inflation, it makes it a little more challenging, but that's the reason why we actually don't nail ourselves to one particular supplier that we do a deal with, right? So our goal, or actually my personal goal, is to help you kind of get your monthly expense on supplies down in the 3 to 4% range. And it is very possible. And so there's one thing people have to realize is that when you're working with vendors or work with suppliers, there's always price scope, always price creep. So you actually cannot just buy from one particular company. Yeah. And so what we've done is actually negotiated with a lot of people to become part of the DSN vendor network. But what's unique is that we actually don't take rev share. And what that enables us to do is to be able to work with as many suppliers as we can to give you guys the best possible price. And that's the way that we've done it. So whether it's you're going to buy from, let's just say we can have 3 software companies that have very similar offerings, but each one is uniquely different. You can choose across all 3 that's going to serve you best.
And I like this. And just pull out for a second, what does no rev share mean? I think I know what it means, but just for our audience, what does that mean? Because that does make you guys unique in how you operate. And I think it's worth just kind of spending a minute just explaining that.
Yeah, we're just not going to get a percentage of whatever it is that you're buying.
So it's flat fee, each person participating in a flat fee way, and whether the group saves someone $100,000 that they hope to do, or $10,000, same to the DSN.
Same thing. And then, when people ask, hey, this is new, or do you have the pen shop to work with this particular vendor? Sure, I reach out and try to cut a deal. And I think we've actually put together an offering. I'm not going to name who the vendors we are, but we actually have aligner companies that we work with, many software companies, suppliers, et cetera. And like I said, we will teach you how to use technology to look across different vendors and get the best possible pricing. Because you're going to notice over time, when you work with one particular vendor, price is going to creep up slowly. And you have to constantly monitor it to get the best possible price. And frankly, part of it, when I stepped into my wife's dental office to kind of help out, naturally, I'm not going to say cheap, but frugal person. I like to be able to make sure that we're just not giving money away. And it was really a personal endeavor of mine to be able to manage that effectively for her office.
And they're the people you want on your side. Your hashtag dentisting cheap, Michael. You're the people that you want on your side during this time, because maybe Mark will ask you. I know you could reveal your EBITDA for like tattoo if you want at this time, if you feel like you want to reveal that one. But I know you're into profitability and EBITDA. Why is paying attention to your overhead so important? Maybe now more than ever. Like, why is this such an important thing for practice owners?
I mean, it's frankly just a function of business, right? You can't, the lower your overhead, the more profitability. And what's unique about dentists, it's your own business. So that profitability is right back into your pocket. And that's really what it comes down to. And you're going to realize that when you're shopping or when you're spending money, they're not necessarily looking out in your best interest, right? Everyone, it's capitalism. Everyone wants to make money. And so do you. And so the way that we do it is you can increase your pricing, you can increase your offering, but the easiest way to do it is fix the holes in your ship first. And one of them is control spending, because that's going to go right into your pocket. And that money can then be diversified or reinvested back into your business, whether it's hiring or expanding your office or, adding new technologies. So that's the reason why. It's like controlling overhead is the very basis of being able to operate a business. And Mark,
I love that. In my office today, I asked a very nice patient we didn't plan over Antron, would she do a testimonial for us? I got her to sign HIPAA consent, also HIPAA consent. I'm afraid of hippos too. Always HIPAA and HIPAA. Those are very, very dangerous things to deal with. But Mark, this, and I know this. A lot of patients will say, "I wish I did this sooner. I wish I did this in my life sooner. I wish I valued myself to do it sooner. I wish I thought the money was worth it." And that's common when we do these transformative dental cases. But back to the DSN. If you had this sooner in your life, Mark, what I find inspiring, and I know you find, is people say, "I wish I found Dental Nachos sooner. I wish it was around when I was younger. It would have been better." But it also would have been better for me, right? I wish Dental Nachos was around for me as a 30-year-old dentist. Mm-hmm. What would the DSN have done for you earlier in your career?
Oh, geez. I mean, Michael alluded to the fact that he's made mistakes. He has no idea. I mean, I made more mistakes like in the first 2 years than most people make in an entire career. And then I multiplied it by 16. You know, I had 16 dental practices total. And I'm a slow learner, man. And if I would have had DSN, DSI much earlier in my career, even the podcast, even something like Nachos and your podcast, Dental Amigos podcast, anything like that earlier in my career, it could have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could have saved me, countless numbers of awesome employees that I probably led right out the door because I was, not a strong leader. It could have saved me immeasurable amounts of frustration. So yes, it is something that has such a low barrier of entry, considering how much you can return on that small investment. Michael's job is to negotiate with vendors. And we've seen this. I mean, we've seen people come in with 8 or 9% into your dental supplies. And we like to see that between 4 and 5%. So, I mean, it is very common that we see somebody drop from 9 to 4%, and 5% on $100,000 a month practice. That's 60 grand a year. Right. I mean, that's real money. The most we've ever seen.
More money for doing nothing. I only think better than that. If you
exactly.
could take calories out of my favorite food, I might choose that instead. But besides that, more money for doing nothing is great. And I think, one thing I'll share, Mark knows my brother, Jeff, and they're fitness fanatics. How do you wake up earlier than Mark Costas and Jeff Goodman? Don't go to sleep. That's the answer to that one, right? You get up earlier, you don't go to sleep. But he's a member of a fitness center. Barry's a boot camp. I mean, I want to share with the audience that there's so many awesome toppings out there. You can partake and consume different groups to be part of, because each one can mean something different. So just because you think, oh, I follow this one group, I can't do anything else, now is the time to be versatile and really just figure out, I mean, the where dentistry's headed in 2023, I think there's a lot of realistic concerns about things for practice owners and the stress level with teams. I was at my dental office today. I reconnected a hybrid for someone I made in 2007. It was 15 years it lasted. We had to do work for it. I was so proud of it. I sit down, my office manager came up to me. He's like, I got to tell you something. Under 30 seconds later of this high, right? I didn't think it would go back on. I don't know if you've seen those prosthetic screws. They look like little gnats. So I'm like, oh, that was a win. She goes, hey, Paul, I wanted to show you this. This patient wants us to commit insurance fraud and say we billed more than what we did. I said, oh, geez, tell her we can't do that. So the roller coaster of emotions inside of a practice. And when you have a group like the DSN, it's just, you could rely on them. You can share, you can vent. I'm so proud of part of this. As we wrap up, I want to remind people that you can text DSN to 215-543-6454, automatically get the deal on how to join and get the operations manual. You're going to be glad that you did it. Invest in yourself. I wish I had this earlier. My team will share this in chat, but I'll kind of give each one of you like a closing thoughts before we jump off. Ashley, is there anything that I missed? Anything you want to share about being part of the DSN that would inspire the Nacho audience or just get them to think about something in a different way?
I've worked with Mark for 10 years now, and so in dentistry in some capacity, and working with other dentists and seeing the power of community and a solid community. Dentistry can be so incredibly isolating, and it is really fulfilling to be inside of this community and to watch our members lift each other up through really hard times. Through COVID and 2020 was a wild year, and being part of DSN was absolutely incredible. So it's, and I'm not a dentist, but being a part of that community and watching it literally change lives is my favorite part.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really what life is about. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, and coming from the angle of a dental spouse, right? So I get to hear it firsthand, the trials and tribulation of what the dentist goes through. But from our standpoint, it's like one thing you're going to get unique inside of DSN is, again, access to people that you're not going to see participating in public Facebook groups. There's a lot of very smart, knowledgeable people out there that are actually just too shy to kind of participate in larger forums. But you'd be amazed once you kind of shrink that room a little bit, the amount of information that they share. And again, as you were saying, Paul, it's like there's no negativity, right? Everything in the community is positive. But beyond that, you just have a lot of helpful information that's being shared across the board without risk of seeing employees or vendors seeing that. It's dentist only.
Yeah, it's just your space to talk about what you want inside that space. I mean, I have a group of four people we talked through the pandemic, and I still have them, and I talk about stuff with them in that group and DSN and other groups, and then larger Facebook groups there. I think as much as we get frustrated with this phone, it really brings you into a world that you could never, could be friends with Mark Costas, and one of the greatest things that happened to me. So, I mean, we have to remember our phones give us access to, like, actually a community support that we wouldn't get. And now's the time to pay attention to it. I mean, it's an opportunity to bring practice owners and associate dentists together in a way that really has never been done before. So I appreciate that, Michael. And Mark, I'll kind of let you wrap up on your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are content producers, right, Paul? We listen to podcasts, we listen to audiobooks, we watch YouTube videos, and if we get a kernel, a nugget, a speck from an hour-long piece of content that we consume, that would be considered an hour well spent. An hour spent inside DSN is concentrated times 1,200, right? There's 1,200 people that have their own personal experience, the power of collaboration in there, and the friendships that are forged, and the amount of support that's given. You don't have to do this alone anymore, guys. I often say that I've had 16 dental practices, but that's a teeny little sample size. Multiply that by 10 times 100, really, and that's the amount of really, really great collaborative experiences and opportunities that I have inside DSN that I could never have if I was to stick to, my own personal experience. So the savings, the CE, and the collaboration, it's a no-brainer for
I like that. Save money, increase profit, maintain your sanity. That should be your 3 hallmarks, right? That's it. So so appreciate you guys being here. If you guys want to find out about the DSN, just text DSN to 215-543-645, where you also can reach out to us at dentalnachos.com to get connected with these awesome people. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you all.